In this video, we're going to be converting this truck's power windows to manual windows because the power windows don't work and I don't want to have to fix them. And the manual windows are more reliable. Maybe not so easy, but more reliable. And there's less stuff that goes out to the doors that way. So we're going to get as much out of the door as I can. That way I can make them easily removable. That way I can have no doors or maybe make some half doors for it. Stuff like that. And they'll be easy to take off, change out, whatever I need. And then on the last video where I made the ramps, I didn't include how I mounted them to the trailer. So I'm hoping to put that in this video, but it took me about 3 days to get everything made. And it was pretty much all drilling holes, cutting and welding stuff together. So pretty boring as far as how the brackets got made. But I'm planning on maybe dropping in the middle of this video, dropping in a scene where I have the mounts on the trailer and I show you what I built and how they work. So, but they've got to come back from powder coat before I can put them on, show you guys. So, but the shop is still a mess from making all that stuff. So we're gonna get it cleaned. All right, shop's all cleaned up. Looks a lot better now. So what we're gonna do is turn our attention to the doors. So I don't have inside door cards for these. They kind of fell apart and stuff. I'm planning on pulling the speaker out. I'm planning on pulling all this wiring out. Inside, I plan on putting where the electrical passes through. I plan on putting plates in to seal those two spots. But all this electrical is coming out. These are coming out. And I'm gonna put the windows in and make a new cover to make this look a little bit better than what we've got going here. And I'll have to figure out a way to have something you can grab to close the doors, that kind of thing. So we'll get started with the tear out and show you what I've got to do to transform it from power windows to manual windows. So pretty much the power windows work, obviously. Used it to roll it down, but there was something going on where the electrical either wasn't getting power or the switches were bad, and I don't want to mess with it if there's just a more reliable option with this truck. Is I just want it all to work all the time. So that's why I'm doing it this way. Now, my plan is to get the window installed, or the window regulator installed. That's what they call this piece. So I can see that it works and what I'm going to have to do to maybe modify it. And then I will take the glass back out, and I want to actually paint this door before I go too much further. There's some other modifications I will do to the doors before I go all the way back together on this, but they're minor. I think I have a plan to do them all. So, but I'll have to drill these 4 rivets out, looks like, to remove the power window regulator, and then I can get a better idea. But I believe the manual window regulator uses this hole for the window crank, so that's where I'm trying to figure out where they place this. It may not be this hole, but I will have to figure it out. There's one manual window regulator installed. Like I said, I'm gonna pull the glass back out of it and probably take the door off. Hinges and all. And I'm gonna clean it up. Do something about all the holes that are in it. And look into maybe doing some modification while I have it apart on the bottom end of it, because I want to replace this whole bottom piece of the cab with a square piece of tube and get rid of the steps. Get it like a rock slider kind of thing there. So, and that'll help, you know, strengthen the cab so it won't, as it sits, it won't get worse and sag, and then I've got to take all the interior out and do a bunch of really tedious rebuilding of the cab. All right, so now that I know the manual windows work well, I'm going to go ahead and take it all apart. So the vent window comes out and the seal on the front side. There's 2 bolts there and a bolt here. And I've already got those 2 out. I never put them back in after I tore the door down. And you'll just pull the top of the vent window. It'll take a seal and all. You'll just tip that top out, pull and twist. It'll come right out of there. You can pull the door seal or the window seal out. Place the glass somewhere safe. And then you just take the door glass, the big piece, slide it off the bottom, pull it up, and set it off to the side too. You can take the rest of the window seal out. So the reason I took the door off was for 2 reasons. One is I want to be able to get it cleaned up and do some stuff, and it's easier just to take it off and work with it for what I want to be doing. I'm going to try to clean up, take the handle and the lock out, clean it up as best I can, and I want to keep the inside of this truck black, flat black, because I like how the flat black makes the inside darker. I don't really like it when it's bright inside a vehicle. So like flat blacks, grays, that's the kind of interior color I like in my vehicle. So this used to be all red, and I've spray painted it flat black. No reason other than because that's the way I want it. And funny thing about it is that's the only reason I need. So, so the inside's gonna stay flat black, and the outside's gonna go to a light blue with a white stripe on the door, or on the notch of the body. So getting this apart, I was kind of hoping to not see it in such bad shape. It kind of makes me think I need to go ahead and do more to this now before it spreads even further. So I might have to do a lot more work than I was originally intending to do on the before this gets moved. So we might be getting into some heavy fabrication stuff. And then the hinges, I have a project for those. So I don't even know if it's going to work right now yet. But what my plan is to put a pin in the door, and have it so I can open the door and pull the pin out and take the door off. So I'll need 2 pins to drop in for one for each hinge, and that's how I'm going to be able to remove the door easily. So I'll have to have another set of hinges I can modify and do the same thing to, and then I can make maybe a set of half doors and make them quick change. To be honest with you, I'm gonna have to look at this for a little while. So I'm gonna cut the video here and come back later, I guess. All right, so I got the 4 bolts out for the door. Door's on the ground there. And I got, hold the door seal up a little bit, and on the door seal, it just kind of hooks onto a piece, a little flap, and it goes all the way around the door, front side, all the way up. But across the bottom, it's so rusted, it's so nasty that it is gone. The pillars are rusting out. I've, poked at them, made holes in them. The back of the cab, I knew the back of the cab was bad because you could see it from the outside. But the back of the cab, the whole cab, other than that, this little bit is rusted out, not even connected. Clear back to here now, which is worse than I thought it was. So I guess I'm debating, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here, because I was kind of hoping just to throw these manual windows in, maybe have paint the doors up, and take this back and work on other projects over the winter. But this may have just turned into a bigger project than I was really intending. So future plans was to get all this cut out, all this bad floor, and put this in its place. It's a 2 by 4 by 3/8 wall square tube, and it would go from the very bottom of the fender right at the very bottom, and it would come all the way down and replace all of this. And then I would just put plate from this wall would be where this is. And I would just put plate up to this steel here, which is good. But it's gonna take a lot of time, a lot of material, and my winter projects were more of the mechanical side, which I have all the tools for and everything. I don't have all the tools I want to do or need to do the fabricating that this is going to require. So I'm kind of in a bind here whether I keep going forward with this and have to spend and go out and get that money, or go out and get those tools to do this and that material to do everything, or just kind of put this back together and put it on the back burner for another project that maybe I have the tools for and the capability to do with minor parts. So but what I do have parts for right now is what I want to plan on doing with these hinges. So I'm going to go ahead and take these hinges off, 3 bolts from the frame. I'm going to replace these pins in a way where I can remove these pins and remove the entire door, like I said previously. So the plan is to work on that today. So here we go. All right, so I've got the top hinge out. I'm waiting on the bottom hinge because I want to make sure I can get this done how I want to first. So they're riveted in, these pins. So I'm going to take the grinder, cut the rivets off, and then cut the rivet out of that and start running the pin out and seeing what I can do to modify everything. Here we go. So here's my plan. This is what I found in the store that hopefully will work. It is a 5/8 hitch pin. I plan on drilling that out to 5/8 and putting these adapter bushings in there and welding them into place to help spread the load across the pin. And then found some of these 5/8 bushing, they call them bushings. They look like washers to me. And my plan is to weld them so the pin only drops through so far. Now what I'm afraid of is the space on the part of the hinge that goes to the body isn't very big around here. So if I drill them out to 5/8, what I'm not sure about is if I drill them out to 5/8, if there's going to be anything left for the pin to catch. So I guess I might as well start with that. so tight the sticker was gonna have to come off. All right, so I don't know what happened. It stopped recording, but what I did is I drilled these out to 5/8, and then I punched the brass bushings that are in this section out and drilled them out to 5/8 to make it so this pin drops through everything together. There is a bushing in here that I picked up from our local farm store. This is a 5/8 hitch pin that I've picked up from the local farm store. And this is just a 5/8 washer that I picked up from our local farm store. So I drilled everything out 5/8. It fits tight. There's barely any wiggle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld the bushing in on this piece that bolts to the door. And I'm gonna weld this washer to this pin with it pretty tight, kind of tight. And that'll keep the pin from dropping down. And then what I'm planning on doing is I'm gonna cut this back so there's not so much sticking out here inside that door, inside there when everything's put together. But the reason I'm doing that is I should be able to pull this pin with everything in, and then pull this hitch pin out on the top and the bottom hinge, and the door can come off. That's the plan. Wow. These are some of the worst welds I've done in a long time. I'm gonna have to do something about that. All right, so while the other one cools, we'll go ahead and remove this one. All right, well, something I didn't realize is right offhand, is the top hinge and bottom hinge are different. So the 3-inch hitch pin will not work in the bottom hinge. As a totally finished result, but it will work to build it, and then hopefully I can find bigger hitch pins. So this is the narrower side of the lower uh, hinges, and the piece that goes on the door on this one is actually the wider side. And with the bushings, there wasn't really much slop in there. But once you knock the brass bushings out of this, there was some up and down slop. So I went ahead and welded one of the washers to the hinge and then ground it so the weld wasn't any higher than the washer, and that got rid of my slop. Now the bushings are obviously narrower than this hinge, because this hinge is actually the same width as the other hinge. And that one, this piece that bolted to the door went inside, so this was close enough together where you could almost just slide this in and weld it in place, where there's a whole lot of slop in this one. The other thing that happened, that's still very hot, was now the hitch pin, drop through everything here, is now too short to put a pin in, So I can't use this hitch pin for the bottom ones. I might be able, I'll probably be able to use a 5/8 hitch pin that's like, say, 3.5 instead of 3. So I'm gonna have to go look for that. But this should be good enough to put it in the truck as a test fit and see if it's what I'm hoping for. And that, I guess, involves putting a door on. So I guess let's get at it. So when I welded the piece in the center, the heat drew these together, so now I can't get the bolts in these holes. That wasn't super easy, but the hinges are in. These are the handle is too long on the bottom side. It's binding between the bolt and the door jamb. So when I do get a longer one that will go through, here, I'll cut that off so it clears all this. And I'm gonna trim that so it can clear and go that way if it wants. But this one turned out pretty good, and I'm happy with this one, I guess. But I'm wondering if I need to take that fender off so I can adjust all the bolts that are in there for the door and get the door shutting right. That's the right way to do it. So you get the door shutting right, and then you tighten all those bolts and adjust the striker pin, and then you put the fender on and get the fender adjusted for the door. But when we do the fender, there's a pretty good chance it comes apart, but it doesn't go back together without some serious work. I'm this far into the door, I might have to do it. But it's pretty cool that I can possibly pull the whole door with just pulling these 2 pins, and the door will come off. So that's all I've got for tonight, because I need to go to the store and get some plate steel for this and that hole there, seal all that back up. I'm gonna have to get different hitch pins, 2 different ones for the lower ones, and then I'll try to get the door adjusted. You can see the gap right there is huge. You get to the bottom, and it's actually inside the door front quarter panel. So the bottom needs to come this way, and the top needs to go that way. But should be able to do all that with the fender off. All right, so we're back in the garage. The powder coat guys got the ramps dropped off, and got this one installed here. So I'll show you the brackets, what I've got. So you pull these two pins, and this plate comes off just like that, and then you can tip the ramp out of underneath here, these little tabs, and pick it up out of the lower mounts, which is where the 1/2 inch rod just kind of sits down inside that V. And then you can place the ramps where you need to, or if you don't need them, they're inside there, so the ramps can fold down and they will be out of the way. So let's I'll do a video, a small section of this video where I install them on that side. So this is everything. We have the lower brackets, the upper bracket that is hard mounted, and then the upper bracket that pins in place that holds the ramp. We have rubbers. I'll show you what those are for later. This is the hardware that mounts this bracket. This is the hardware that mounts these two. All my tools and some paint to paint the bolts after it's all together. And then these are the two snap clips that go through these two pins that hold that top bracket. The only thing we're missing is the ramp itself, because it kind of gets in the way while I'm working here. I guess I lied. This isn't everything that you need. What you'll also need is black RTV and a ratchet strap. So what happens is these little tabs are on that bracket and they're just a little off. So what I did is run a ratchet strap over the top of the ramp and ratchet strapped it, and it pulled it up to the high end of the slop of the holes, and then you tighten it down while it's under tension, and it clamps it all together, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. And then the RTV will hold the little rubber pads onto the brackets. And there they are, installed. I might come back and do a little bit of trimming on the rubber pads that I siliconed on those, so they look a little better. But you can see the L and the powder coat, the L. So I know that that ramp came off the left side, that bracket came off the left side. R and R, again, right side and right side. And you notice in this bracket, the R is to the right, and on this bracket, the L is to the left. That way I even know which way is up on these brackets, if you would want to put a direction to them. So there you go. So now we're back on the truck. Just showed you guys the ramps and how I mounted them. So to adjust the door hinges, I have to remove the quarter panel. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the whole front clip off this thing, so I can get to the door hinges easier. So let's get after it. So on this truck, I'm planning on stripping it down to what you really need. So the antenna for the radio, I'm gonna take off and I'm gonna plug this hole so it's smooth. Like I'll leave the wipers because, you know, you can't control if it's raining in and out or anything. That's why I'm putting power or manual windows in it instead of power windows. I plan on trying to get a set of mirrors that fold in, so if it gets really tight, you can fold the mirrors in and not have to worry about taking the big structure, damaging it. I'll put a radio in it and stuff, but it'll all be Bluetooth, so I can just use the music that's on my phone. But as far as, you know, I want the front end stuff, I want to keep it narrow, less things to catch on, that kind of stuff. So kind of keep it low profile. This grill has seen better days. I put strobe lights in it. That's what those wires that I just pulled out of there were for. So we're not going to reuse this grill. I've got another grill. All right, so I didn't film anything of it, but I got this side all blown apart so I can get to the hinges on this pillar. But what and it only took me an hour and a half or so. And the biggest deal was getting the headlight out and everything off of the inside of the quarter panel. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and film this one. All right, so now with the quarter panel off, I got good access to those hinges and everything. So I'll be able to easily adjust the door. I can do what I need to. And then I can also work on fixing the rust issue easier on the bottom of the cab here. But my plan is to cut this bottom piece off about here all the way down and put that square tube in. and that'll replace, it'll stick out just a little bit. So it's probably gonna, I'm probably gonna have to figure out a way to bend the bottom of the door up or around so it won't hit the tube and it'll still close. So that's what I've got for you right now. As much as I have going on this week, this is Sunday before this video drops. So what I have going on this week, I'm gonna be pretty busy. I might be able to do a little bit, but I probably won't be able to edit it and put it in this video. So there's the passenger side, all tore apart. All my front fender pieces and everything are back there. And I have easy access to unbolt this door and start changing this door up. Thanks for watching. Please give me a comment, like, subscribe, and see you later. Bye.